Who are you? I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want. What's that? Time.
Stop! Before we get started, please hit that subscribe button that's below us right now. And right off the bat, people, this movie was below average for me. This film has no stakes at all. Marvel is letting all of their stuff out of the bag. We all know that Kang is the big baddie. He has a freaking movie named about him called Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. So why should I even care about what goes on in this film? Like if he's gonna win, we already know he's gonna win because there's already gonna be a movie about him in the end. There's no, there's nothing. He didn't win. I mean, he did win. He won. He's gonna win because there's an end credit scene here where there's a whole bunch of Kangs, and that other Kang is still Kang that's in this story, and you have to follow this Kang. And then there's another freaking end credit scene with Loki, and I'm getting so ahead of it because it's like, yo, Marvel's plan or their formula, it's like, we gotta show you everything that's coming, and you have to see everything that we made before so you can get to understand what we did before. Can we just have a good movie?
That's funny.
Can we just have one good movie?
Yeah, and that's my problem. Marvel's starting to feel like, I saw someone call it on Twitter, long television. That's what this is starting to feel like. But somehow they get sucked down to the quantum realm, and this is where we have problems. It never dawned on me, and it really should have. It's a failure on my part for not seeing this coming. The quantum realm is boring. There's nothing to do down there. And I think the fact that I don't know what anything is a big problem, because Ant-Man's powers is that he gets big and he gets small, right? In the first Ant-Man, the first time Ant-Man shrinks, he's standing in the bathtub, and then suddenly the bathtub turns into a gigantic like desert, right? In the quantum realm, I can't tell if he's big or small at a glance, because I don't know how big that building over there is supposed to be. So a lot of his powers, a lot of the things that are interesting about his powers get lost if I don't know where he is in relationship to anything else. There's a scene later in the film where he's big and his daughter is big, and that kind of messes with my head because I'm like, how are they both big, but aren't they actually really small because they're in the quantum realm?
I said that too.
And so I'm like, and the movie had to say, we're both big for me to understand they're big. So that's one big problem. Two, the whole movie is more cartoon than it is movie. This whole movie was clearly shot on a green screen.
It was shot on LED panels.
Yeah, the volume, right? The point is, he's not anywhere, right? Our characters are not anywhere, and they're not really interacting with anything. This turns the movie into a series of images where I don't know what I'm looking at. There was this like faction that was fighting down there, fighting against Kang. Who were they?
Rebellion. Yeah, they didn't. I don't know anything about these people.
And there's that girl who she was like ripped, and I guess she was like some sort of like rebellion leader. And I'm like, why do I care about you?
You just said keyword. Why do I care about you? Why does Cassie care about her?
I do not know. I'm like, why do I care? So there's like a war or something, and someone gets hurt. Someone's like, oh, and Cassie's like, I gotta help him. I'm like, why? Help who? For what? Help them do what now? Some of the most basic things for me got lost. Like, why should I, the audience, care? I couldn't tell you. But unfortunately, the movie is mostly that. It is 90% this little war fighting for the bulk of the film. And I'm confused, and I'm slowly checking out.
This film wants to hit hard on family because Scott lost time, and Kang the Conqueror can give him time with his family so he can get back up there to the world.
But even that gets done instantaneously. That little issue right there gets resolved in that conversation. Like, so there was a fake out in the trailer where you think, oh, Ant-Man's gonna be working with Kang the Conqueror to get back time so he can spend it with Cassie. But in the movie, Kang's like, I can offer you time. And Ant-Man's like, F you! And I'm like, oh, okay. That's like, no, okay. And then Kang just resorts to being like bad guy number 3, where he's like, if you don't do it, he starts threatening him. And I'm like, boring. When you're talking about family, that brings up the most obvious thing. We are missing key components of the Ant-Man family. Where's Lewis? Where's, frankly, T.I.? They're not here. And we're stuck with Evangeline Lilly, who was never that interesting in the first place.
And then her character's not even in this film a lot. No. She's just placed in here where she needs to be.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to believe that the Marvel universe is becoming all filler. Everything in between this starting point of this film all the way up until the next 2 Avenger films is all going to be filler that people's going to have to pay attention to, or they won't understand what that's going to be. And when you say about where Ant-Man's real family is with Lewis, let's go back to that first film. That first film was co-written by Edgar Wright. And what do we always say about characters? If you take care of your characters, the movie will fall in place. Edgar Wright is a king on characters.
Even the most basic Ant-Man stuff, like our cast of misfits that surround him, weren't there. And then what makes Ant-Man interesting is that he's a thief, and which makes most of his films heist films. And what happened to the heist format for Ant-Man? Poof, gone. There was one moment where he's got to get a doohickey for Kang, and you're like, okay, so I guess this is the heist. He's gonna make a plan. He's got. We have our cast. I'm like, okay, he's gonna make a plan and get it. And no, he just goes by himself, and he just goes and grabs it. I'm like, oh, so there was opportunity there to go back to your heist premise. But they were uninterested, or they didn't know. I don't know.
This movie has no direction, dude. It's lost its spark.
I think it's got a direction. I think the direction is that Marvel doesn't want to change anything. So this has got to be the 4th or 5th movie we've seen from Marvel that ends in the same spot that it begins. Like nothing, like after you watch the movie, nothing has changed. More or less the same with the Multiverse of Madness. It kind of began and ended in the same spot. It begins the movie and Kang is predisposed. That he can't, because he's trapped in the quantum realm. And then it ends the movie and he's dead, I guess. Marvel's afraid to alter their world. They don't want to change it too much. And this is becoming a big problem. These movies are very skippable. Like you said earlier, they're more worried about the universe as a whole than like this particular movie. And I think Marvel has some really deep fundamental problems. We kept being told this is the introduction to the next Thanos. And then in this film, it's like, and he's dead. Now you've got to learn more about the other kings in the next movie, where we'll get the introduction to, like, what the like, yo, can we put a stake in the ground somewhere? You know what I'm saying?
When I was talking to a person that's on my regular government job, he's like, well, we didn't see Kang die because we didn't see no body.
He's right.
Like, yeah. We didn't see him die.
Why play such a corny footsie like that? And that kind of lended to me my issue with the film. What happened to Kang? I'm like, what? So I'm like, what happened to him? So everybody just turns to the camera. He's dead. And I'm like, is he? he gets sucked down into a smaller little thing. And he's like, don't worry, guys, he's dead. I'm like, oh, I wish I understood what happened without you having to verbalize it for me. Full disclosure, I got this idea from a girl on TikTok where she was talking about how the writers for this new Ant-Man film and just writers for Marvel in general seem to have less experience than the previous writers. So I'm looking at the IMDb. I'm looking at Jeff Loveness. He is the lead writer, it would seem, for Quantumania. And he is known for writing for Jimmy Kimmel Live, one episode of The Office, the 2016 Emmys, and the 2017 Oscars. Do any of those sound like movies to you?
They don't sound like movies to me.
Well, let's dig a little further. He wrote 6 episodes of Rick and Morty. He wrote some short films. He wrote for another show called Miracle Workers, a show I've never heard. He wrote for The Onion, the fake news network. Again, I can't help but notice none of these are movies. He's got zero movie credits. Now, I'm not trying to say this man's not good, okay? He might be a fine writer, but this might explain some of the weirdness in the film.
It does, and it lets me know even further that Disney does not care. Disney wants to save money.
Good for this guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad he got the opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
Good for him. I'm sure he's a fine and lovely person. You know, his last name is literally Lovingness. So I'm sure he's a lovely guy. But so I'm not trying to say anything bad about this guy. But you know, when you look at his history here, that's kind of concerning. Like, I feel like they're making business decisions, and yeah, hey, good for Disney. I understand it's a business, but I don't make any of that money. None of that money goes to my pocket, so I do not care. I care about the final product. But looking at some of the decisions we got here, they're not particularly concerned about that. That's not where their thoughts are. We're in danger spot for Marvel.
Fly into the danger zone. Bam, bam, bam.
That was a gajillion times more entertaining than anything that happened in the Ant-Man.
I want to talk about a throwaway character that's in this film, Modoc.
He looked terrible.
Yeah,
like,
he looked terrible.
I'm not one for CGI. I don't even care. I tell you a million times, I don't care what it looks like, as long as you generally understand it. But I thought that was distractingly bad. Yeah,
it was distractingly bad. Cassie was like, just don't be a dick. And he comes through, he's like, my name is Darren, and I am not a dick. I'm like, what kind of character development happened in 10 minutes for you to say that?
Yeah, he was a dick the whole movie, and then Cassie was like, stop. And he's like, okay. And that's it. And he's suddenly willing to give his life. To me, what makes Modoc more offensive is they've done Modoc right multiple times already. Apparently, he's better in the Avengers game. Personally, I haven't played it. But apparently, he's better in that game. His characterization. But I actually think they nailed Modoc in the Modoc television show that no one watched. I thought his mannerisms, his voice, his look, I thought was more interesting there. To get the worst version of Modoc in the MCU is kind of sad. And they killed him. And so we can't do anything else with Modoc? We're just done with Modoc now? Like, that was it?
We're not done with Modoc because, you know, America Chavez lives.
That's true. She could just go grab another Modoc, I guess. You're right. Marvel has big problems. Really, really big problems. And the main problem to me is that they are uninterested in change. They are uninterested in moving the MCU forward. And at the end of the film, when we get our post-credit stuff, I felt kind of hurt because it was mostly just a commercial for Loki season 2.
Marvel don't care how you hurt. They care that you are eating it because it's going to get you to come back and buy the tickets. It has been reported that the Marvels was supposed to come out before this film, and then it got pushed back to July. And then recently, they pushed it back to November. Now, some people may say that they're trying to course correct with all this stuff that's the woke culture, whatever that mess may be.
Have we picked up on the fact that the word woke is a stand-in for a slur? We've never used the phrase woke to talk about a white guy. It's just a stand-in for a slur, right? So it's usually, if they don't want to say black people or the N-word, they just say woke. Or if they don't want to say, you know, women or the B-word, they just say woke. Or they don't want to say gay people or the F-word, they just say woke. It's pretty obvious to me that it's just coding for a slur. So anyone who says that to me, I'm not going to address you.
You're not a fan. You're not a fan.
No.
You're not a fan or anything.
No, it's not them being a fan. This person's broken, and there's nothing I can do with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to try to convince you. I'm not going to address you. You're broken. Something's off. And I will say, if you run into someone, a reviewer that's talking about woke or uses the phrase woke, if you want my most wrong opinion, you should dismiss that person. Something's off. They either don't know what they're saying, or they do know what they're saying, and something's really effed up. Something's bad. I think the Marvels being pushed back is a good thing. That's not a bad thing at all. That's good. Take your time. So I think this is just the greatest opportunity for DC, because Marvel has fundamental problems. I was disengaged. There's no drama in this film. I cared nothing about our characters. I didn't like that we missed some big stuff here, some big drama. It's not quantum drama, but it's big drama where Cassie is in jail. I'm like, dang, that's how she starts? What happened there? There's some interesting drama to start with, some things we can learn about our characters. Didn't see it. Yeah, Cassie's got a suit that she wasn't supposed to have. It seems to have been built for her. Where'd she get that from? Well, we didn't see it. So she's built an entire satellite system to go into the quantum realm, a place that at least one of our heroes was trapped down there for 30 years, and she never spoke to her about it.
I kind of felt like there are scenes that are purposely cut out of this to move the story that they feel that's more important along.
I think Marvel is afraid that that's boring. And
that's so interesting stuff.
And it's also interesting that they think that's boring. Before we watched this film, I said I dread watching Ant-Man. it was looming. Yeah. It was looming over me.
You said it feels like it's gonna be work.
And that's what it was. I wish I could report and tell you that this movie was laughably bad, but it's not. It's the worst type of movie. It's fine. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's all right. You'll get through it. You will recognize this as a film. You'll say, this is a film made by Marvel. You know what I'm saying? Beyond
Congratulations.
That. Yeah, beyond that.
Congratulations. It wasn't, like you said, entertainingly bad. Of course, they're going to give you all the spectacle. They're going to give you everything that blows up, but they are not giving you substance. It's like these writers, they're writing for corporate, and that is dumb.
This feels like a corporate product.
So the only reason I'm giving this film a score that I'm about to give it is because of Jonathan Majors, and I'm proud of him of what he had to do with the work that he was given as an actor. But other than that, everything else was in this was trash and just candy spectacle. So I'm giving this a C-.
Yep, I'm giving this a C- as well. I think this might be my least favorite Marvel movie I've seen since Thor: The Dark Realm, or Dark Elves, or Dark whatever the fuck it was. The second Thor
Really?
film. Yeah. Eternals was boring, but at least Eternals was doing something, trying something new with new characters.
Yeah.
They just had too much, right? And they just like all collapsed on them, you know? There are too many characters and too much world to build and try to make a story on top of it. It just turned into a mess. This movie did nothing. It didn't even attempt anything, right? So for me, I've said a million times, a C- is I think the worst grade I can give a movie. Mostly because I don't think this is worth your time, and it will just barely pass the time for you. That's really about it. And I think all the alarms are ringing now for Marvel. All of them. I feel like this is a 5-alarm fire. The house is burning asunder. It is burning down. We have serious issues. This was boring. This was bland, and this was just a CGI extravaganza. And that is not my taste at all. They didn't understand what made Ant-Man interesting. Even some of the things that make his powers interesting, where he can get small to the quantum realm to the point where it starts to affect time. So this was a big plot point in Endgame. How did it affect time in this movie? I'm not sure if it did. It seemed to be able to pick and choose when this time dilation affects Ant-Man and the world around him. Like when he got trapped for the blip, he felt the blip was like 5 minutes when really it was 5 years. But Janet Van Dyne was down there for 30 years. It felt like 30 years, and she aged 30 years. Why? How much time has gone by for this film? It seemed like no time. Why? I don't know.
It's all this stuff that's just not.
We need rules, man. If we understand what the rules are, right? Then I can understand the importance of getting out of the quantum realm now, right? If they said every 5 minutes we stay down here, 30 years has passed in the Marvel universe. We need to get out now. And so as the movie goes on, I'm getting more and more nervous because I'm like, things are gonna be totally different when they get back, you know. So we need some rules, something. But it's not there. I felt an emotion I hadn't felt about a comic book movie in a long time, and that is, if you're young, you may not understand this, but back in the day, being a comic book fan was a bad thing. It was a negative. Yeah. People thought you as a nerd in the bad way. And when a comic book movie came out, you were almost kind of embarrassed to say you watched it. And this was the first time in a long time that I felt embarrassed. That was nostalgia in the worst way. That I felt embarrassed to be a comic book fan. That's not good. We got problems, y'all.
I feel the same way, man. I really do. But I hate to ask you this, but I have to ask you this, man. I already know the answer. Do you recommend this for people to see?
I do not. And I don't think you need to see it to understand whatever's coming next. There's no utility in it. You're not going to enjoy yourself if you watch it. And you don't even need to see it to understand what's coming up next. So, no, I don't recommend it.
And I totally agree. I don't recommend you watching this film. But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Please get in the comments and let us know what you thought of Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania if you did see it. And that is our review for the start of Phase 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Hey, we'd like to thank you for clicking on this video. So get in the comments, like I said before, and let us know what you thought. And if you did like this review and rating, please hit that thumbs up because it really does help out the channel. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion. Just remember one thing, it is mostly wrong. We'll see you guys in another video.